Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians and lying corporate media. I'm Jake Duesenberg, your host. We're broadcasting live from Roseville, Minnesota, in the belly of the beast, the liberal zombie apocalypse of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Reading your comments today is the lovely Bridget. How you doing there, Bridget?
I'm doing excellent. And we have Tucker here, says good afternoon. Follow, join, and hit that like. There we go. Andy Parrish is also saying, I guess Jake isn't worried about starting on time.
Wow, she's good. She's good at that.
She's good at reading comments.
Reading comments.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody read comments, so wow.
That's right. She got here 2 minutes before we started, so makes Dawson's life very hard. So there you go, Mr. Liberty Longbeard himself, Paul Tucci. How you doing there, buddy?
I'm doing well. I've had some exciting last couple of days, and I show up here and I'm like, all I got to do is eat wings and I don't have to read comments. This is glorious. Like, if I would have known that, I would have been whistling.
The rule is you don't eat wings on my nice white chairs. My God. What are we going to talk about today, Mega Jesse?
Yeah, we got a lot of good stuff planned out here. We'll be talking about whether or not Ron Kresha lied and whether or not that was the reasoning that he was able to pull off that slim victory that for District 10A for state representative. We'll be previewing the Action for Liberty State Fair booth. We'll be talking about RFK Jr. dropping out, endorsing Trump. That will be interesting. Talking about Kamala's economic plan, and we'll be talking about some controversy or lack of controversy, in my opinion, on Medal of Freedom, Medal of Honor. We'll be talking about Trump. It should be something. I also saw a Christopher Crash in the comments. I think that's a new name, so we always like seeing new people tuning in and watching. So got a lot of good stuff lined up here.
Exciting show. I'm hearing this along with everybody else, and that sounds like a hell of a lineup.
Yes,
here.
because you don't even read our comments before show. He's the worst regular.
What a great show. This is awesome.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I can't believe all the great stuff we're talking about. I'm hearing this with everyone else right now.
I'm going to reach over and strangle him today. I swear to God, Dawson. Dawson running the dials, Mr. Deep State himself. How you doing there, Dawson?
I'm doing okay.
That's why.
Holding on.
Dawson, we're gonna have a little argument later on the show because we don't see eye to eye on this Trump thing. But I swear to God, I empathize with you so much right now because you're trying to.
I'm feeling free to be extra sassy since I'm out of arm's reach. When I'm sitting right there, where Bridget is now, Jake can reach over there and strangle me. But over here, there's two cameras.
I got cameras and a bunch of stuff in the way.
I'm pretty safe over
How
here.
about throw a Spartan helmet on? My God. All right. Razzle Dazzle in the comments. Right T says Broadway shows can start 7 minutes late. So can Jake. All right. Thank you very much. I like that.
I agree.
There you go. Okay.
I'm with you, Jake.
We couldn't do it with our great sponsors, Alpine Cabinetry and St. Cloud. My good friend Warren Wessel of Keller Williams Realty. I'm going to talk about the state fair today. And Warren's actually volunteering to shuttle people to the state fair. He's also a good real estate agent. Give Warren a call at 612-419-7453. Sorry, I should have specified. He's going to shuttle the volunteers for Action for Liberty over to the state fair.
Well, what about...
But he might also, if you're buying or selling a home, give Warren a call. I guarantee if he lists your home, he'll shuttle you to the state fair.
I
guarantee he'll do that.
Give Warren Wessel with Keller Williams Realty a call to see if he would, on the 29th, which is a week from Thursday, when I plan to be at the state fair, if he'd be willing to shuttle me back here to the studio to appear on The Truth Hurts and then shuttle me back to the fair afterwards.
He will do that. He will do that.
Be,
yes, because he's going to be here.
I'll be calling Warren Wessel with Keller Williams Realty to set that up.
Also, if you're buying a home, give our good friends at John Galt Mortgage Company your business, or give them a chance to finance that home at least. The great company, they believe what you and I think, and they're damn good at financing homes. Go to johngaltmortgage.com. Okay, I want to get right into it. By the way, if you want to interrupt at the same time, hit that Rumble rant, and you'll. The rules are we have to follow what you're saying. We have to interrupt what we're talking about to read your comment. We've actually had some $100 Rumble rants lately. It makes us think we're doing something really good. It's crazy. Jake, I'm happy when a $50 one comes in.
Remember what Senator Wiesenberg said was not on our bingo card for yesterday?
What's that?
I don't know if that Rumble rant, I don't know what's going on with this, if that Rumble rant has something to do with that, if this is tied in. Mm-hmm. Anyway, there was a Rumble rant the other day, and now I have speculation that
it led to a strange email.
It led to an interesting email that I received yesterday.
You did? Do I not know anything about this?
It's on our thread with you, me, Tony, and the senator.
Do you not read your messages?
Oh, man. How about we do this? Cheers to you, K-Wall. Let's do this in the post show. I'm kind of confused right now. Can we talk about the post show?
It might even be too crazy for the post show.
It might be too crazy for the post show.
It's too graphic, at least.
It's too graphic?
Yeah, this one I'm not. I'll talk about this in front of my mom, but I think the post show it's probably inappropriate for her.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, you say something else juicy for the post show. That's for our subscribers. You can go click on join on Rumble, and you can join us. If you're not watching on Rumble, go over, check us out on Rumble. That's a good place to do it. All right. But that's a lot of bullshit before we actually get into the story, because this is actually a really interesting story. I know you like the story. Tushy, you're like a broken clock on this thing. You're always talking about it. And, Jesse and I were talking the pre-show. He's like, oh, another thing on Ron Kresha. Here's the deal. I don't know of a case where I've seen an election so close that involved such alleged cheating, like to the point where I could make the argument that the cheating allowed victory. Let me lay out the case for you. This is just something you're not going to... This is why I wanted to do this, because we're going to talk a little bit about Kamala, all right? And I think we got some nuanced opinions about it. We'll have a little debate about Trump and this Medal of Honor thing, Medal of Freedom. But are you really eating those wings? That son of a bitch.
No.
My God. Quinny's Sports Pub and Grill. Great wings, by the way. Our official wing sponsor. Dude, she couldn't help himself. So, the thing is, you won't hear this from anywhere else. And I'm not saying that we've got this all figured out at this point. I think it's just an interesting case of if someone's found guilty of cheating in an election, what is the right remedy? Should they still be placed in office? And it seems like there is a law that would say that they might not be. So let's get into the story. Dawson, go ahead and pull up the line 7 here. Every other day I forget to actually label these links here. This is fresh off the presses here on truthhurtsnews.com. You can go to truthhurtsnews.com. We just added this little plugin where you can listen to. So if you're on the run in the car, you can just click listen and actually have I think it's a British woman reading it to you. I think that's how it goes. Hey, you know what? Bridget reads it to you. That's what happens. We've got the plugin and it's got Bridget's voice.
Okay.
With an English accent. So anyhow, it says, so here, a judge with the Minnesota Office of Administrative Hearings has scheduled a probable cause hearing to look into multiple alleged campaign law violations by Representative Ron Kresha. Jay Duggan with Rocks and Cows, Minnesota, we've had him on the show a couple times, submitted the formal complaint, and a ruling came down yesterday that there was a prima facie evidence of violations. So he's not found guilty of anything yet. It just says what was submitted to us looks like there was a potential violation. So they're going to look into it more. What makes this case so interesting is Ron Kresha, as you know from Paul Tushy, who knew and you helped out. You were a campaign volunteer with Diane Webb Skillings. And that came down to 35 vote margin. And it's really an 18 vote margin because assuming those same people would have voted in the election, they just couldn't choose which person to vote for. If 18 flipped and went the other way, then Diane Webb Skillings would have won the primary election. And that would have been big news because Ron Kresha is in the Republican leadership. He's a 12-year incumbent. It's a pretty big victory. Now, also, we told you on the show that one rhino got replaced. Brian Johnson lost his primary race to the mayor of Isani, Jimmy Gordon. So this would have been 2 rhinos replaced in this last election. There are 2 complaints that the judge found credible, and we actually linked to it. Why don't you just go click on that prima facie evidence there. This links to the Office of Administrative Hearings. So you can see it's a 6-page document and talks about the next hearing that'll be scheduled, and it kind of covers a summary of the violations. Some were not found. Well, actually, one was found unconstitutional, the law that was quoted. So they're really focusing on Minnesota Statute 211B.02. All right, go back out of here. That law says you cannot falsely claim an endorsement by a major political party. So one of the documents that was submitted to the Office of Administrative Hearings is this this mail piece that says Ron Kresha is Republican endorsed. If you see that picture with the dog, just to the left of that, that's where it says Republican endorsed. Okay? So that's a major foul right there. You can't say it is. Now, that went out to, we would imagine, 5,000 Republican primary voters? What do you think?
Far more than that. Best estimates, it probably went out to 6,000 households, which is like 9,000 or more voters.
Right. The total voters in this election were just under 5,000, by the way. So what I would imagine happened here is some people saw that he's Republican endorsed, certainly in the state of Minnesota, which seems to matter a lot, and said, I'm going to vote for the Republican endorsed candidate. What's also interesting about this is Ron Kresha self-reported, because I think he got caught red-handed, probably went around social media, self-reported himself to the Office of Administrative Hearings, and in, I think, July or June, they said, you know what, this was a mistake, because I think that's what he said. It was an error on my own part. What did he claim, Tushi?
He claimed it was due to an editing error that this appeared on there.
Okay, an editing error because it was from a previous election.
I mean, it didn't say, like, it just, I wasn't at the hearing.
Yeah, like, so how did a error be made? Like, how did this just pop on there, right?
What I think the court was led to believe, in other words, and we in these complaints, we would always detail out the things we tell people, and that's what's nice about actually talking to the voters, going to the doors, is you have a little bit of time to actually talk to somebody and say, well, what Ron's doing is, and what he said was, and really, like he would set up these straw men all the time. Well, they're claiming that I voted for, driver's licenses for illegals with the Democrats last year, but that's not true. See, I'll show you where I didn't. So see, they're lying about me. And it's like, no, nobody said that. What we said was this, that, and the other thing. We said that you authored 2409 to give $5 million to illegals for their legal fees to avoid deportation, things like that. So, like, he'll set up something where he claims something that he's been accused of, which is not what he's accused of. He defends that, and then he says, so see, they're lying about me. So this is like a twist on that. He files a claim against himself, accuses him of something that's far less than what he did, and then defends
It's a smart tactical move, but
yeah, it is.
Okay, we're going to get into it. Let's go to some of the comments here. I actually see some pretty good additions here.
We have a new person. Elaine Elstad says, good afternoon, all. I'm new to this, but I have been watching for about a year.
Thanks, Elaine. Appreciate that very much. Yeah, first time in the comment section.
So, Byron of Sidious asked a good question up there. He said, too small for me to read, but he corrected himself later, but he said, does it say Republican Party endorsed or just Republican endorsed, because the specific phrasing is important? And then somebody down below, I just saw.
I don't think it is actually in this case. It's not specific. The specifics doesn't matter. If you say you're Republican endorsed,
it would indicate the same thing.
Correct. It indicates the same thing to people.
Okay.
What would you?
I was going to say, does it make a difference? I suppose it's never technically legally, is it?
No, it is. So if you go, let's go back to, great point. This is a good place to stop. Go back to the article. This is 211B02, false claim of support. A person or candidate may not knowingly make, and knowingly is important here in terms of Ron Kresha self-reporting, directly or indirectly, a false claim stating or implying that a candidate or ballot question has the support of endorsement of a major political party. All right. Certainly the implication is when you say Republican endorsed would be that it's the party endorsement, right? But I would even make the argument that's directly, not even just implying, but it's directly saying it, right? And then the other thing that's interesting here is because he self-reported, they think of it as he didn't knowingly do it. It was an error, right? What did they say? It was just a print error or something like that?
He claimed it was an editing error.
Editing error. Okay, so it was not knowingly. This wasn't done well. It's just bad proofreading, right? Which
so
to me seems interesting.
What he did is basically he filed the claim against himself. So if I catch somebody breaking the law, if Jesse here is running for mayor of Lauderdale, and he says, I'm endorsed by Donald Trump, the Republicans, the Democrats, the Libertarians, the Green Party, the Marijuana Party. I'm endorsed by all these people, and it just puts out this thing, and everybody says, well, geez, if everybody endorsed him, I guess I'll vote for him for mayor. And then I file a claim and say, this guy is lying. He's falsely claiming these endorsements. I get to go argue what he's done. Ron Kresha files against himself, which means he gets to go argue. This is what the violation was. So it wasn't Jay, it wasn't me, it wasn't somebody who knew what Ron did. It was Ron making the case against himself. He made the weakest case possible. Oh, this was an editing error. Well, apparently what happened yesterday after speaking with folks that were there is that Ron had claimed it was an editing error. Well, it's like, you were not endorsed for 2022 in the 2022 election, you were not endorsed for 10A. So you've never been endorsed for 10A, which was in the complaint. But it's like, how come if your literature from last year didn't have this logo on it, where did the logo come from this year?
Yeah.
Did your designer just hit the button on the keyboard that accidentally puts the logo of a Republican with an elephant on there to say you're endorsed? Like, it wasn't on last year's literature. How could it be an editing error? And, basically, I think Ron's, I guess, his excuse was, well, I thought it'd be good to use. Well, he wasn't there, I guess, first. Didn't show up. They figured it's best to leave him at home so he couldn't, hang himself or whatever. So then they were going to find probable cause, so they got Ron on there, and he said, well, no, I thought it would be nice to use one of my old pieces from many years ago, so I sent that to the printer to have him rework it, and then I had him put a new picture of my wife and I on there, and then that's missed the logo, and then I guess Jay apparently, hey, well, I don't know what the protocol is.
Was
but
he ever endorsed at all?
apparently Jay says,
Republicans?
oh, hey, so what you're saying is you had to approve the proof with the picture, and that's what you and your wife were looking at, the picture of you. The picture that's right next to the elephant logo that says Republican endorsed. And he goes, yeah, that's why I took the blame, because it's my fault. I didn't see it. But when he made the original case against himself, he's like, yeah, it was an editing error. It was left on there by the designer, basically, And then come to find out, and answer your question, Bridget, he was never endorsed for 10A. So
But he has been previously endorsed by the
he
Republican
won a
Party.
contested endorsement in 2012, and that's the only contested endorsement he ever won. Then in 14, 16, 18, and 20, I don't know that he was endorsed because they probably never had a convention.
So then couldn't he legally, technically claim that?
Nope.
Somebody in the comments, Andy Parrish, I think, was saying, isn't it the same thing as saying, as a member saying re-elect when they have a break in their service? So if they were elected like 10 years ago and then decide to run again?
Yeah, there was I remember talking about that case. It's not the same, by the way. But we came across that at some point, too, I remember.
But he was.
Anyhow, we're reading 211B02, okay? And that just directly says you can't make a false claim stating or implying a candidate has a supportive endorsement of a major political party or party unit of the organization. So that clearly is a false statement. And I also think it is, well, if it's an error, is there repeated behavior, okay? So from what I understand, he then uses a slit piece at a county fair. And so even knowing that it's false, he continues using this piece. Is that correct?
So he's, he's got a lot of little tricks this guy does to demoralize people and do other things and be kind of an ass. And so,
well, let's try to be more objective here.
So-
I get it.
so
You're obviously biased on this one too.
So objective facts are that he then, starting the very day after, so on the 9th, he self-reports. The next morning on the 10th, I'm outdoor knocking, and puts a picture of the front of the literature piece without the back. And, basically, which indicates that, I just discovered this late in the afternoon on Tuesday, and now Wednesday morning I'm outdoor knocking. So what'd you do? Are you handing out the piece with the elephant on it or whatever? And so, he did this the next day, and then 2 days later, he goes, at the fair, and every day at the fair, they have the literature, but it's always the front of the literature, not the back, and they're showing it by the iced tea.
Okay, so he's reusing the literature, you're saying.
He's posting numerous pictures on the 10th, the 12th, the 17th, the 19th, and twice on the 19th, I think.
And this is after self-reporting.
After
so what I would
self-reporting-
say is now you knowingly are committing this violation.
That's what the complaint said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's what's the nuance here? What's he saying?
Well, he tried to claim that, we had it reprinted or whatever, which was another.
So
funny
he
thing.
better have receipts for that then.
That's what they asked, and he said he did. But I mean,
Well, that's
I don't
possible.
know.
It's possible that he could then end up.
well, looked at the mailing indictment. This is a nuance that most people probably wouldn't catch, but. At the Aiken County Fair, you go on the social media, you zoom in, and you can see the mailing indicia on the one that he had there. So if he, what his claim was apparently yesterday was that, I discovered it late on the 9th. I sped down, I got in my car, I self-reported, then I went on Facebook, made a post about it. Then I drove down to Woodbury and got there to the print shop and paid for my wrong ones and then got them to print some new ones. It's like, well, how long does it take to drive to Woodbury from Little Falls? It's like you leave at 4 o'clock, 4:30, you get there at 6:37 p.m., and then you had them print up a new batch. It's like it's like it looks like it's an old type of printing shop with the presses and stuff. No, maybe they have a digital printer, but it just doesn't really seem even believable. I mean, it could have been. But then when you see at the Aiken County Fair, there's the mailing indicia. Now, everybody I know that does digital printing, they don't put a mailing indicia on a digital print because you can, I mean, if you're mailing to people, you can put the person's name, address, and everything right on there with each print if you want on a digital printer, because that's how this stuff works. So you have the mailing indicia on when you run 17,000 pieces on a press, and then you hand out some of them and you do multiple mailings and the indicia's on there because it's printed on the press. Digitally, they take it off. So it's like Ron, I guess, is claiming that he sped down to Woodbury, got there at 7 at night, had him print up a new batch, and he drove them home, and then they left the mailing indicia on when they digitally printed them or whatever. I mean, if they printed them on a press, they couldn't even set it up on time, let alone like let them dry and cut them and have Ron handling them.
Well, I mean, that's the nice thing is there's a court hearing to actually see that. So I'd love to see the evidence. And
what I laughed about.
Susie says napkin, please. Yes, please.
I don't want to give Ron a defense, but what I thought was hilarious, and I was laughing with a couple folks up in Little Falls because we know Ron never door knocks, and he's always in his house, and his car's always in his driveway, and he's like, "Oh, I'm door knocking." Well, I said he probably didn't even go out that morning of the 10th. He probably just lied on Facebook and said, "Oh, hey, I'm out door knocking," and then took a picture outside, and then walked back in his house, sat down on the couch, and ate some popcorn, and watched the movie. And now he's like, "Hey, you were out door knocking." Now he's got to fabricate a story of like, if he's found guilty for handing out a card because he claimed he was door knocking on Facebook when he never actually door knocked.
That would be so funny.
Like I said, I don't want to give the guy a defense. I just want, look at me, I'm too lazy to door knock. I can't door knock. Nobody likes me.
The better option is that he just lied to the voters about him not door knocking. That's the better option. Okay, so that's really funny. Okay, so
Ron and the Gerhardts that are watching this is like, I thought we had no defense. Now we got a defense. Thanks, Tushy.
Yeah.
From the long-bearded wing eater. There you go. All right, so then what happens is there's another big issue. He puts on social media. We go back to the article here, Dawson. That he is endorsed by CPAC. Well, first of all, CPAC doesn't make an endorsement. CPAC is a political action conference. And second of all, then it's the American Conservative Union, right? ACU.
Yep.
That's the entity, and they didn't make an endorsement in Ron Kresha's case. So it also seems like he has lied about that aspect as well. And this went out to people. Obviously, CPAC is really well known inside the Republican ranks. Many people think of it as like a standard bearer of conservatism. I think it's kind of fraudulent in many regards. But long story short, it still has a lot of standing in terms of Republican circles. So I just go back to, actually, any comment on the CPAC thing there?
Yeah, lots of them. I mean, Ron, when they asked him about this yesterday, he it's kind of like when they asked Nicole Mitchell, well, what happened? Well, yeah, I broke into my mom's house through the window, and I took some things that weren't mine. It's like, okay, you just confessed to burglary, you know? Like, by definition, you broke into somebody's house while they were home, and you took something that wasn't yours. So you confessed to first-degree burglary. Like, there's no question. Like, your own statement is a confession. So Ron's like, well, yeah, I was on the phone with my buddy CPAC. He's like, I was on the phone with CPAC, like it's his bud. Yeah, we call him CPAC. He lives in North, or whatever. Like, I was on the phone with CPAC, and they were saying that they like me in there, and they hope I get reelected. So, I counted that as an endorsement. It's like bullshit, first of all. Like, that it's not, it's like a conference, right? It's not it's not even an organization. Like the American Conservative Union Foundation is the org. The ACUF puts out a scorecard, not CPAC. And the scorecard doesn't indicate an endorsement. And even if it did, you can't use it unless it's in writing. 211B specifically states for exactly this reason, endorsements have to be in writing, because otherwise it's he said, she said, well, yeah, he told me he endorsed me. No, I didn't. And so it's literally in the law.
So here you go. Let's go back up in the article. And I didn't read past the first sentence, but it says a person or candidate may not state in written campaign material that the candidate or ballot question has the support or endorsement of an individual without first getting written permission from the individual to do so. Well, that actually says an individual.
So while he was on the phone with CPAC, was what he said. So somebody on the phone said, yeah, I like the work you're doing.
That almost seems like it's a technicality because it's saying an individual instead of an organization. But long story short,
so Ron,
you can't say in the first one that you have the endorsement or support of a organization. And there is no organization called CPAC, but he does put in there American Conservative Union, so it alleges that he has the endorsement of the American Conservative Union, which he doesn't. It's the same thing. Action for Liberty produces a scorecard, and they don't actually make endorsements. They just have rankings. Now, what's interesting, and I'm just going to say this about ACU, they're a fraudulent organization in many regards in terms of conservatism. Ron Kresha's a 95. What, he's like a failure on the Action for Liberty scorecard? He's probably like a F something, right? And so I remember seeing like all these rhinos getting not endorsed. Does CPAC ever, or I mean ACU ever make endorsements? They don't. Okay.
No, they don't.
So they're just doing. I was wondering, why do they have all these good scores on these legislators? So I went in and looked at the bills. They don't evaluate a single omnibus bill. I'm like, oh, you cherry pick bills to make these guys that are Republicans look good. So like all Republicans are really good.
Now, when you say
according to them, and then meanwhile we're like looking at it and like, wait a second. When you voted for that unconstitutional omnibus bill that grew government, and they don't even use that in their criteria.
When you say they cherry pick bills, that is worth mentioning and even digging into a little bit more. When you say they cherry pick bills, that's what they do. They pick out. They say, what bills did all the Republicans vote for and all the Democrats vote against? Then they score those bills. So they cherry pick the bills to give the Republicans a good scorecard, the Republican caucus, the Rhino caucus. So they don't look at the bill and say, is this a good bill or a bad bill? And then they score the bill. They pick the ones where all the Republicans voted yes, all the Democrats voted no, and then they score those bills and only those bills. I remember when I think it was Liberty, Minnesota did their first like scorecard back in 13 or whatever, right? And it's like they picked just random. They picked bills that they picked votes, where there's amendments, bills, stuff that were to do with liberty, and they picked those things. They didn't know how people voted. They picked the bills. They decided how the bills should be scored, and then they. Then they found out how legislators scored, and there was no intention to have one person with a good score, one person with a bad score, and they're like, well, this person, I didn't expect them to get as good of a score because they're a crappier legislator and stuff, and they were kind of surprised at the results because there was like the first time that I'm aware of in Minnesota where any organization did a legit scorecard. For the first time that ever happened, and AFRL's done it afterwards, where you pick the bills, you score the bills, and then the legislators get whatever score they get, rather than picking. I
remember someone
first
going, "Why did you give?" Blah 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 a 76. I go, we didn't give them anything. That's how they voted. Like we picked the bills, it's so fraudulent for a conservative organization to say we have a scorecard, but we're just going to ignore all the bills that grew government. Like what are you doing? That's ridiculous. And so then once you score those omnibus bills, and guess what? There's not a lot of conservatives up there. What is a conservative if you don't evaluate them actually growing or shrinking government? Like, isn't that the one thing conservatives are supposed to stand for, is less government? And they don't even score that. All right, so this is where this thing really gets interesting. And I don't mean to just do this about Ron Kresha, because I think there's other cases where this is interesting. Democrats in 2012, when they took back the Minnesota House and Senate, they had, I think, at the time, the largest CFB violation ever, Campaign Finance Board violation. It was like $100,000 because they didn't actually follow law on independent expenditure coordination with candidates. And in that case, if I remember this case right, they had a bunch of candidates up with a photo shoot, and then they used that for independent expenditures. It was ruled that it couldn't be an independent expenditure if you did a photo shoot and coordinated with the candidates. And so there was a $100,000 fine. And I remember at the time, it's like, but they won the election. They just flipped the House and Senate. So isn't that just the cost of doing business? So then it comes to this. What is actually happening here? Andy says CPAC endorses candidates all the time. Bachmann had their endorsement.
Yeah, they've been
federal
arguing in the
candidates,
comments
maybe.
about that.
Maybe federal candidates. Maybe they got a federal PAC. But, Andy, it's not showing that they actually endorse candidates
He
at
has
this
a link
level.
in there. He says CPAC fully endorses candidates. Stop saying they do not. But then Love Minnesota is disagreeing.
Well, can we click on that link that Andy put in there? I mean, Andy knows things, although Andy doesn't.
I saw Andy also put something in there that claims that whatever link he had was an endorsement of Ron by CPAC.
Well, what is this one? Andy says CPAC fully. I'm listening to my buddy here. Show us if we're wrong.
Give me just a second.
We're gonna give you a second here. Andy, I'll admit I'm wrong if I'm wrong here, but I don't think we are. By the way, it still doesn't take away from the fact that he claimed Republican endorsement. I did see the comment there. What if it was in past cycles? No, it's not in past cycles. Once you're Republican endorsed, it doesn't mean that it just exists forever, which is another problem with
But
Ron
technically,
Kresha,
it's not
by
a
the way.
lie, right? I mean, it's not. He has been Republican endorsed.
Well, whether it's,
So,
Yes, it is a
couldn't you
lie
just argue
because
that?
because you
whether
can't-
it's a lie or not, it is a violation of Minnesota statute.
well, there you go. That's a better way to put it. Well, what do you?
So-
Okay,
I don't
I
see
mean-
anything on here that says.
No, that's like
This is a really annoying website to look at.
It says Legacy U.S. endorsements. CPAC. This is what comes up when you click on the link he sent?
So he sent a few.
Legacy U.S.
Let's try
endorsements.
this one.
No, it's the most recent one.
Most recent. It's this one.
Oh, there you go. Scroll down. 2024 CPAC endorsements. So it looks like they do federal candidates. But do they do
North
state
Carolina
candidates?
governor.
Yeah, I mean, so it looks like they do. Oh, did you see a governor? So it looks
Yeah,
like they do. I wouldn't be shocked that they do congressmen and governors. But we see no evidence that they actually did this with a state legislator. Right.
Well, you think
That would be an easy thing to prove if you actually had it. You know.
Yeah, and he was on.
proof.
Actually, apparently, he was on Zoom yesterday, and so I was on the phone with my buddy CPAC, and they said they like me or something like that. It's like, well, it's not endorsement; it's got to be in writing.
Well, and you said
Love Minnesota's
right
got
or
a good
wrong,
comment.
I just saw
didn't
that comment.
Yeah, read
Love Minnesota says, trust me, if Ron had a written statement from CPAC, he would have a splashed across his face.
No, I actually go to the
And
next
continuing,
comment. This is a good point.
What is the point of holding an endorsing convention each new election cycle if people can just claim prior endorsements
Bingo.
each time?
Exactly.
Yeah. And Razzle Dazzle asked this earlier, too. What's the penalty for the violation? Has the formal complaint to the Secretary of State
Okay,
been
so this
filed
is
yet?
okay. Great question, Razzle Dazzle. It's almost like I paid him to carry on the conversation for us. So, I think we're in unprecedented territory. I haven't had time to research to see if this has happened before, but there is. So, first of all, if found guilty, this is a misdemeanor. Okay, which is like in the legal aspect, just a slap on the wrist. However, in 211B17, there's a part that says forfeiture of nomination or office, circumstances were not forfeited. So let's pull this up in the article. Because I guess the big question here is, if you cheat, you don't follow the rules, in a close election, should you be able to take office? So this is subdivision 1. Except as provided in subdivision 2, if a candidate is found guilty of violating this chapter or an offense was committed by another individual with the knowledge, consent, or what is that, connivance? What is that term? I was supposed to look that up before we did this. Connivance of the candidate.
I know it looks like convenience, but it's obviously something else.
The court, after entering the adjudication of guilty, shall enter a supplemental judgment declaring that the candidate has forfeited the nomination or office. I assume nomination in this case means nominated as a Republican candidate in the general election.
I bet that word is probably connivance, like conniving kind of deal.
It means willingness to secretly allow or be involved in wrongdoing.
Oh, well, then it would be connivance. I think you're right there, Dawson. Dawson, 1 point. If the court, not in a lot of our normal daily vocabulary.
I'll take it where I can get it.
And we're not lawyers here. If the court enters a supplemental judgment, it shall transmit to the filing officer a transcript of the supplemental judgment. The nomination or office becomes vacant, and the vacancy must be filled as prescribed by law. Fascinating stuff. So, I guess, can Kresha, if found guilty of this, once again, this is just prima facie, they're going to do a probable cause, and then they'll see if there's actually a violation. He's going to go in front of a court.
Wait.
And I don't just mean Kresha. Anyone that does something that's not following the law, would it actually take them off a ballot? Would it actually mean that they can't take office? And to me, it's like, if you don't follow the law, if you don't follow the rules, there needs to be a remedy. Otherwise, why won't they just always not follow the rules?
Yeah.
There's another big case here. This is not a legal case in terms of breaking the laws, but we talked about this on the show, and in Kresha's case, and this happened in other cases, the Republican Party wasn't even following its own rules, its own constitution. They were supporting candidates who didn't have the party's endorsement, and they supported Ron Kresha against Diane Webb-Skillings. So you also see the interesting thing I have here. I mean, does it look like we just have sour grapes here? Does it look like we're just sore losers? But I'm trying to think, is there a good case, prove me if I'm wrong in the comment section if you guys know something, where a grassroots or the conservative in these races had any apparatus benefiting him, like cheating or any not rule following? I'm just trying to think, like, is there a case where this same kind of stuff was happening that benefited the conservative? I can't think of it. It always seems like there's so many things that are stacked against the conservatives, the grassroots people. Like, we brought this up many times on the show. Steve Boyd, who we kind of predicted wasn't going to win against Michelle Fishbach, but I'm glad he ran, and I really think he should run for something else in the future. But, just look at these mailers that went up by the Republican Party of Minnesota that continuously said we need to re-elect Michelle Fishbach when Michelle Fishbach wasn't the endorsed candidate. So it's like, at some point, I'm just like, does this ever happen where it supports the conservative? I hear crickets in this room. And so that's why I wanted to talk about this, because I really do think in many cases something needs to be done. And the problem is, you probably have to have legislators enact laws, and I just don't think there's it's like the problem with term limits is these guys don't want to do anything about it. So
Razzle, I'm taking away Bridget's job here.
Do you want me to read that Ron has already admitted guilt?
Yeah.
What's
There you
that?
go. Razzle says Ron has already admitted guilt.
There you go.
And Andy Parrish says, which is what can get him expelled from the caucus.
Yeah.
Boy, it's nice. It's actually way easier to read comments here looking at the big screen than it is over there.
Well,
on the
a
desk.
professional reads them off of the laptop that's in front of them, like Bridget does.
Well,
All right, this part of the show is brought to you by Yes Solutions for all your shipping needs. Now, if you're shipping freight, whether it's just one pallet or multiple truckloads, you got to give the good Patriot Carla Nelson your business. You can call Kyle at 651-797-2451. Yes Solutions for all your shipping needs. These are the experts in shipping, and it's run by a patriot, the Patriot Carla Nelson, not the Senator Carla Nelson, the Patriot Carla Nelson.
Should I read Mickey Murray's
Yeah, go
comment
ahead.
here really quick? She says, it seems those who would get stirred up by this are party active people. Even then, the only cost or penalty would come from the outside of the party. I think the party people would demand nothing.
Yeah, that's part of the problem, But, this is the party of election integrity, right? Aren't we
Well-
supposed to follow the rules here?
So I think this will need to. This will become a big deal this year. Either way, no matter what happens with the results, it's just the fact that the like you said, the HRCC is spending six figures on multiple races against conservatives. Now, you mentioned the owner of Yes Solutions, the Patriot Carla Nelson. Isn't the Patriot Carla Nelson a candidate for Minnesota House this year?
She is.
I wonder how many times Isaac Schultz and Josh Heinzman drove down to help walk in a parade for her. They certainly did for Rhino Ron Kresha in an 80% Republican district that would never in a million years go Democrat, where there's literally something like 3,782 state legislative districts in America, right? And if you look at that's like 100,000 elections in the last 50 years or something like this, right? And out of those 100,000 elections, you can't show me a time when a 75% district where no Democrat got over 30%, and then it flipped to the Democrat next time. You can't find one time out of 100,000 that it happened. Republicans have gone to jail, Republicans have died, they still win that district, right? And so when I tell Josh frickin' Heinzman, who said, "Oh, if they say, Josh," he says, "Oh, they're trying to get me kicked off the ballot. If I get kicked off the ballot, it's going to go to the Democrats." I know you're not that retarded, so that proves that you are just a complete liar and a fraud. Just have no respect for the truth or no respect to be honest to anyone, Josh Heinzman, because anybody, because you can look at the evidence. You're a legislator. You supposedly run the HRCC, and you can't look at the evidence of 100,000.
Sorry, we got
gotta interrupt you, Tucci.
Rumble rant.
Whiskey Tango Foxtrot $2 says Liberty can't see the small screen with his bad eyes. I think it's an ADA violation to force him to do so.
Yeah.
Thank you, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. All right. Well, so
Do you have bad eyes?
I have terrible eyes.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know
Maybe
that.
that's the
Terrible
reason all
eyes.
along.
Yeah.
Get him some glasses.
And I had you as our official comment reader.
Just
Well,
because
why? You would think you would tell me this at some point. Did you assume I knew you had bad eyes? I did not know that.
I'm legally blind in one eye, and the other eye is negative 7.5 prescription.
Wow.
I
Well, how
have-
does this Whiskey Tango Foxtrot know that?
Yeah.
you know.
I know each other.
So But so yeah, like these you can make the
He just goes on,
I'm
he's
sure
like,
that
whatever.
the Patriot Carla Nelson doesn't have Isaac Schultz and Josh Heinz.
No, you made your point. Okay,
knock doors
I got
for her. And I know my House candidate who's in my district, Nathan Hirschbach, who's a fantastic candidate, and he was
Which is a swing
Ron
district.
Paul guy,
Potential
Ron
swing
Paul guy
district,
in
yeah.
2012, and he is just a fantastic candidate.
Yes.
He has an event tonight that I'm going to be going to in Lilydale.
Okay, yes.
And he doesn't have the HRCC helping him go and do stuff. You know what we could do to flip that district?
Yes,
We had help,
yes.
but no.
Very good
So-
point. Put
so-
the effort toward. Okay, I'm going to cut you off.
All right.
Damn it.
I have a button that makes it so nobody
No.
can hear him anymore.
No.
He has a
no,
button that-
I don't want to do that.
Sends electric
Silence
shocks to
is
his chair.
By the way, Razlet says Bridge is the best. We need to find a sponsor for her. What sponsor do you think we should have other than Stanley mugs or Stanley, whatever you call
I
those
wouldn't want
things?
Stanley anyways.
Oh, okay. What would be your sponsor?
Apparently she likes
Clothing line or something
seltzers
like that?
have,
I don't know, actually. I'd have to think about that.
Okay. Apparently, Tushy should be like LASIK
Should
eye
try to
surgery
get good
or something.
ranchers.
yeah.
I want good
If
ranchers.
there's any LASIK eye
Did you say
surgery,
good what?
Good ranchers.
Ranchers. What do you mean that? What's
Their
that?
meat. It's like a very conservative meat company. And I would like to
Oh.
get their meat, so.
Oh, okay.
But that's
then.
big.
So like ship to home steaks and stuff like that?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. All right.
they do that.
Noted. Seems like it'd be one of us that would have that as our sponsor, but there you go. Bridget wants.
Bye. I
meat
want good
company.
meat.
I know, but it's just see, when you look at the guys on this set, you don't look. She's the one eating the steak, right? So
I do have steak pretty often, actually. But it's
really,
not good rancher steak, so.
what do you like? Yeah, cook them up on a grill. What do you do
No, Jacqueline cooks them for me.
on
I
a
pay her.
grill?
Yeah.
What kind of steak do you eat?
I mean, honestly, lately, Jacqueline, my roommate, will be like, I'm buying steaks. Do you want one? I'm like, sure. And then she'll go home, cook it, and then I come home.
Just
to a
random
meal.
steaks, or does she, you guys? Have
Yeah,
a cut
just
that
she
you
just
like?
buys from the store, like Costco or usually Costco, I think.
She go
Or
with
there's
Brian?
a
What
meat
cut?
store near us,
what cuts?
Vaughn something.
What's your favorite
Do
cut?
you know
What's
what
your
we mean
favorite
by
steak?
that? Like when we say cuts, like
Oh
ribeye
yeah, I do know. I forget the round one, the round tall one. I like.
or, oh,
What
fillet.
it was called.
Fillet with no fat, probably. Right?
Yeah, and it's super soft.
Yeah.
It just like melts
fillet.
in your mouth.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess I don't know all their names, but
No, that's the most tender, right?
New York strip all the way.
You like New York strip?
So these guys could do well if they got a porterhouse and Dawson could have the New York strip off one side.
There you go.
And Bridget could have the
Fillet.
off the
Hey,
other.
that
okay.
sounds like
There
a
we
good
go.
idea for like I don't know a dinner or
So
something.
so
oh,
get
wow, Dawson.
so
Candace
Jake
Owen
next,
should be her sponsor. That's
so
great.
next
I
show
love that.
get
Love
4
that.
porterhouses, one for you, one for me, one for Mega Jesse, and one for Dawson. To
Well, I do owe you guys dinner. We had a you know what? Maybe I should. We don't have the best steak because we got the Traeger. It's not great for steaks.
Yeah, that thing. I
Razza
had to
Dazzle said
wrestle
Von
with that thing. I
Hansen's
don't like
Meats.
it.
That's what I'm talking about. She goes there quite a bit.
Oh, does she really? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Von Hansen's good.
Von Hanson's is good. Yeah.
K Wall's a filet mignon person too. Looks like.
I think there's nothing better than New York strip on a cast iron skillet and then some wine in there while it's going. Ooh, it hits so.
See,
Tucker says Schmidt's Meat Market in Nicollet is where I like to get meat. They have some damn good summer sausage.
Oh, that'd
so
be
I'm a ribeye guy,
Never heard of that
and
place.
Dawson's.
No,
a
I'm
New,
definitely a
I,
ribeye guy.
I could have almost picked that New York. I could have picked New York strip
I-
for Dawson.
All right. Do you
somehow.
guys? Okay, I owe you guys a dinner. Are we gonna do a steak fry? Is that what we're gonna do?
That sounds great to me.
Sounds
Jesse,
good to me.
you were
Yeah,
so
sounds
quiet
good.
on this episode.
I'm
Steak?
just waiting for us to get to something important here, you know?
Important.
Let's move
There
on.
we go.
All right, I want to show you guys in case you haven't
Well, I
seen
guess
it.
is this? Are we done with?
We were
Kresha
done
now?
with Ron Kresha.
'Cause
I know you always want to talk about
I would just
Kresha.
say this and everything. I think we've already alluded to it, but it's like how many times. Look at these tort cases. You know, the tobacco settlements. What was that John Grisham novel where they denied the
Get
kids
to your
cancer?
point. Yep,
You know,
got it.
treatment.
Yep.
So if an insurance company is letting people die of cancer, they're not doing what
Yep.
they're supposed to do.
Right.
The only way to send that message is to fine them. You can't just fine them a tiny bit. It's like you said, the cost of doing business. And if the courts do anything other than strip Rhino Ron of his election certificate, that just means that next time everybody will claim false endorsements because $2,000 is nothing. It's like I think almost anybody would bet any amount of money that Ron's guilty of these things. He's admitted guilt. You know, he's guilty of these two things. Now, are they going to fine him $2,000 and then next time everybody claims false endorsements, or are they going to take his election certificate away and then maybe tell people that they shouldn't do this again? So that's
Well, people
what's
hate a
coming up.
rigged system, but it seems like a lot of American politics is a rigged system.
Well,
and
that's
this just goes
what the judge
par
has
for the
to
course.
decide,
It's right. Yes, it is what the judge has to decide. All right, let's let's follow Jesse. So I want to before we get into this next section, the Minnesota State Fair is starting on Thursday. By the way, Jesse will be there every afternoon. Nice. We're hopefully going to be recording live, but he's actually hired by Action for Liberty to run the afternoon shift. Then we got Lisa and Tina running the morning shift. I know there are a lot of people that are followers of Action for Liberty that follow our show, which are separate entities, by the way, in case people don't know that. I know a lot of times it seems like it's the show of Action for Liberty, but this is a separate show. But I do still work and help out Action for Liberty. I founded the organization, and I'm very proud to show you the Never Walz booth graphic this year. This is fantastic. This is what's going to be on top of the State Fair. This just was broadcasted for the first time Sunday afternoon. There you go. You got Stolen Valor Tim Walz. Now, Derek, the graphic artist, could not have done this better, in my opinion. This is just top notch. The burning Minneapolis, the boys' bathroom tampons in the hand, and the taped up fake rank of Command Sergeant Major. If you know that story, you probably do know that story because you've followed our show. And this red flannel that he's wearing everywhere. Oh, this guy, unbelievable. So this will be at the Minnesota State Fair with a big banner that says Never Walz next to it. They got a big spin the wheel. They're going to have signs that say Never Walz on it all over the fair. Tens of thousands of these fans.
Where are they putting their signs?
Well, on top of the booth.
Oh, but you said all over the fair?
The fans all over the fair.
Oh, they're doing Never Walz fans
they're doing
again. Oh, cool.
Tens and thousands of fans.
I saw that graphic on Mort's social media, I think last night or early this morning, one of those, and that's the first time I saw it, and I really like it. I mean, you can't do everything, obviously, so they picked some good ones at the Command Sergeant Major, Bird in Minneapolis, Tampon Tim. You can't have, like, the semi-automatic goose gun that he has when he goes pheasant hunting and other stuff like this. There's 100 things you could do with this moron, but...
Well, I kind of helped out with some ideas on the graphic, and I said Tampon Tim's catching on, so you got to have that tampon in there.
Did you have any flack from the State Fair yet about trying to get a spot?
It's an interesting relationship. I don't know. We'll see. The flack usually happens once the fair starts happening. So, will State Fair actually steal it this time? Who knows? What about merch, says Susie? Will you have it for sale? They are doing a shirt. It's a really cool shirt. It's got like Trump with the fist up in the air.
Tampon Tim on it? Do you have those shirts for?
That's on their online store. Oh. So they just launched an online store as well. The fans are free. Mickey says the fans ruled the fair last year.
They did.
Right.
That was awesome. They're just everywhere.
I love it. So
I'll tell you, I'm going to go on the online store, get a large size Tampon Tim shirt, and wear it to the fair on the 29th, and wear it to the DFL booth on the 29th, and see how long they let me stay there, and then wear it on the show here on the 29th. If Warren Wessel from Warren Wessel Realty will shuttle me from the fair back here to do the show and back to the fair,
he will do it. Okay.
It might be a good idea, really quick. I don't know if we're planning on having some cherry tree filming over there, but if people knew what day or what time around.
Well, we're going to try to do it on Thursday. We got to work out something yet, so I don't want to make promises I can't
keep. You want to be on TV? There's a chance.
Yeah. So anytime the show is happening, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1 o'clock to 2:30, if you want to get on the show at the State Fair, those are the times to be there, for sure. That's when we'll be at the State Fair. Well, I should say Jesse. Jesse will wear 2 hats, right? So there you go. You can double dip, Jesse. I'll still pay you for your show appearance here, and you get paid to work Action for Liberty's booth. So there you go. Isn't that great? All right. What is this? RFK Jr. to drop out, endorse Trump? What is this?
Yeah, let's go ahead and just watch that video because Nicole Shanahan, RFK Jr.'s running mate, is obviously making the case that, you know, if they were to stay in the race, that they could be handing this race to Kamala Harris, which has been my point this entire time, that who would have thought that when the mainstream media is smearing this guy and, you know, attacking him as anti-vax and everything that conservatives love, that for some reason he might be pulling conservative votes. So let's go ahead and play this video and see what she has been saying here.
You know, there's 2 options that we're looking at, and one is staying in, forming that new party, but we run the risk of a Kamala Harris and Walz presidency because we draw votes from Trump, or we draw somehow more votes from Trump, or we walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump, and you know, we walk away from that and we explain to our base why we're making this decision.
Yep. So that's it right there. And I think that
Wow.
obviously that is what they need to do right now. And I want to thank Tucker for sending me this video before the show had started, because I didn't know about this. I've been thinking this entire time that RFK Jr. is going to be remembered in history as Ross Perot, but an even worse Ross Perot, because it's not like he's preventing us from a George H.W. Bush presidency. He's preventing us from a Trump presidency. So RFK Jr., while we might like him now, if he continues to stay in this race and if he continues to push the ideas that he's pushing, he's detracting from our voters. And he's going to hand this election to Kamala Harris, and that is not what we need at all. So if RFK Jr. and Nicole Shanahan are seeing the writing on the wall, they're seeing their polls continue to drop, that's because of Joe Biden being replaced with Kamala Harris. So the Democrats are happier now. The Democrats aren't now voting for RFK Jr., so it's only the conservatives who are continuing to do this. So RFK Jr.
really
needs to step up to the plate here. Sometimes you got to put the country above yourself. RFK Jr. seems like a nice guy. Same thing with Nicole Shanahan. I've seen her on Dave Smith. Very interesting interview. She seems like a smart person. And it seems as if they're smart enough to realize that if they stay in the race, they're going to hand the election to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And that is the last thing our country needs.
Well, it's fascinating. I guess I just haven't followed Nicole Shanahan much, other than the announcement, which I thought was lackluster. By the way, I don't think I ever saw a picture. She's a beautiful woman and very well spoken. So
Jake and I agree on this. After I heard about Big Mike as a beautiful woman, I thought, my God, I don't know Jake's taste in women. Holy God.
well, Tushy,
But
I
wholeheartedly agree in this case, Jake. I had the same
can
thought.
definitely tell you we don't have the same taste in women. That is definitely.
I definitely don't. I don't think I've seen her before either. And I kind of heard, that some of her positions were left wing and stuff like this, and you picked her. So I was just
Well, she's Silicon Valley, so of course she's got left wing views. But it's interesting the way she put it. Like she looks at Kamala and Walz as dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. She's a former Democrat. Obviously, she left the Democrat Party because she sees what it's become. So I think that socially she is kind of more of a progressive person, just probably in the way that she lives her life. But when it comes to the politics of it, when she's seeing what they're doing to our country, she knows that obviously we can't allow Kamala and Walz to do this. And, for her to be on the independent ticket with RFK Jr., I don't think she was selected just because of the money. She's obviously a smart person. She brings her own issues and ideas forward, to the table. But in this situation, like I said, because Kamala Harris has replaced Biden, it's removed the path for any kind of path of success for RFK Jr. So RFK Jr. needs to do the right thing and, do the right thing for our country, which is to support President Trump in this time.
Okay, I just saw this. Oh, did you have something?
I was going to say, do you think that it's like a for sure thing that if they stay in the race, then Trump doesn't win?
I think it's a for sure thing that they take away more Trump voters than they take away Kamala voters.
I didn't agree with him when it was Biden. I agree with you a lot more now with Kamala. I thought they took more from the Democrat side because I think. Do you agree with that at this point? Okay.
No, I think
here's my rationale.
He was always taking more from
here's
the
my
Republican
rationale.
because of the media. It was because of the media.
I know what you're saying, but I'm just saying the Democrats saw how terrible their candidate is. There's a faction of Democrats that felt disenfranchised. A lot of them would have stayed at home, which is really why Trump was going to win that election. But there was going to be some that broke for RFK because they couldn't stand the fact that they're pulling off the shenanigan Biden. Now I don't feel that same way because I think they feel this energy and love and hope with Kamala. For now, we're going to get into that. I just saw this in a thread. I can't believe I'm doing this, but because of the guy who sent it to me, I trust it's going to be good. So go pull up B1. It says rough start for day 2 of the DNC. I'm watching this the first time with you guys. Let's see what just happened at the DNC in day 2. Oh my God! Can you go full screen?
This is not for real, is it?
Okay, that's so good. Okay, I'm glad I. Tony said that to us. That's good. Oh, it's terrible. It's not just bad that you're singing off key, but it's like they're not even together on it.
I thought that conservatives were like the party of the engineers and stuff, and like the artists and stuff were supposed to be the Democrats.
Yeah.
Oh man.
How?
Tucker has a $5 rumble rant. He said, "You guys are going to have to start giving me $5 for these golden fines."
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. Well, listen, this is what's nice about the show. It's a hang, and it's we involve the audience. This show is really about you guys. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have done this show probably after the first year if it wasn't for what you guys show us, that you're watching the show and you're commenting and stuff. And Tucker does a lot of things behind the scenes, always feeding us good stuff, and I love it. All right, let's go to this. So
What's above Tucker's
Bill
comment? there?
Dingsman. Fancy him. Having one line dip bleep from Nebraska on the ballot is more than enough. Hopefully the court sends RRK or RFK into retirement, or at least
I think
a
it's
lot of
Rhino
big-
Ron Kresha.
Oh, Rhino Ron Kresha. I'm like, who the heck is he talking about? Of course, Ron Kresha.
this Bill Dingston's such a weird, bizarre guy. Okay. All right, this is the last thing, and then we're gonna go to the post show because we got a good conversation for the post show. Dawson's gonna rip on Trump, and I don't agree with Dawson on this one, but I don't know. You score this one. For those that want to be part of the post show, you click on Rumble, you click on join, and you become a monthly subscriber, $8 a month. Or you could go $88 to annual. You get a month off if you do the annual. A lot of people like doing the annual, but either one's fine with us. But it helps the show grow. It helps us report on things that you're not hearing from anywhere else. And usually Tushy's bringing juicy gossip. I'm sure you got juicy gossip today.
Yeah, I do have some juicy gossip. You know what, though? Jesse, when you're working the booth at the fair, are you allowed to wear other types of Nebraska Tim Walz shirts, or do they all have to be official merchandise?
No, I think it's pretty broad. I think we can do what we want here.
We got, because I had one of these. I was going to wear it on the show today, and I got to lose a little weight till mine fits. But we got this is the back. It's you may have recognized it, but the front of this new design. Here we go. Turn around, it sucks here. Birthplace of Tim Walz and Rhino Ron Kresha. As you can see, Ron is atop of a rhinoceros at the state line for Nebraska. So I want to present this to Jesse and see if you'd be interested in wearing it one day at the fair.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yep, you can catch me at the state fair. Afternoon shifts wearing this bad boy, and I think we got a lot to expose with Tim Walz and Rhino Ron Kresha. It doesn't shock me that we got two of these big government liberals from the same place. So I appreciate the gift, Tushy. Thank you.
All right.
We have a new person.
Yeah, I've never seen Crucified. 1993 says 2 years ago we had Caravan of Patriots make a flyer for Nathan Miller event. On the flyer we had the words Republican Party, and then GOP went after Miller for posting on Facebook, and he had to.
Right. Great point. Yeah. They went after him on the 211B as well. So there you go.
Wow.
It's funny how it comes around. Yeah. See. Okay. So I guess that's a case where. Well, I don't know if that would be what I was saying before, where it helps the conservative candidate.
Right, because he's not claiming the endorsement on that, right?
Yeah.
It just says that he mentioned MNGOP or mentioned Republican Party.
Yeah, I can't remember the specifics of that one, but I do remember that case. That's interesting. All right, so Kamala on economic plan. Let's go to this. Kamala actually, by the way, if you go to Kamala Harris's website right now, to this day, we are August 20th. The DNC convention is actually happening right now. They still do not have issues. They do not have a platform on their website. You would just think that's the first thing you put on there after the About Me section. They never made it past the About Me. They had plenty of time to put the donation link. So we still don't know the platform for Kamala Harris, although apparently she sent out a press release to the media of her economic plan. Pull this up. This is on the Hill. So her plan includes, this would be her priority for the first 100 days in office, because we got to save the economy, right? By the way, because, that guy that's in office and his vice president not doing a good job. So Kamala Harris has got a plan to correct the bad economy under the current leadership. Boosting the child tax credit goes up to $6,000. Price gouging ban. Plan calls for what it describes as the first ever federal ban on price gouging on food and groceries. So, in other words, controls. Expanding the affordable housing, Harris's plan pushes for the construction of 3 million new housing units over the next 4 years, along with what it described as the first ever tax incentive for building starter homes for first-time builders. Helping first-time home buyers. Another plan Harris proposed builds upon a previous proposal from the Biden administration that sought to provide first-generation home buyers with $25,000 in down payment assistance, along with a tax credit for first-time home buyers. Limiting taxes on tips. These are the economic plans to revive this bad economy under current leadership. Obviously, I'm being facetious here. She can't just pretend like she's not in office and can do these things right now. Where were you the last 4 years? You know? Like what?
Donald Trump was like, remove the taxes on tips, and now Kamala's like, we're going to remove the taxes on tips to correct what's been done by this terrible administration. Like,
Okay.
aren't you in the administration?
So it's so utterly ridiculous. Okay, we live in this crazy, I don't know, the Truman Show right now. It's so utterly ridiculous that she gets away with this bullshit. She literally hasn't had to talk to the press, but she did actually give a little camera time to the press. So I want to break down this video. We should have a video breakdown section like, what was his name? What's that comedian on Comedy Central used to do the video breakdown?
Tosh.0.
Tosh.0, yeah, Jen and Tosh. We should have like a breakdown section here. So let's pull this up. D2 Dawson. This is Kamala getting off the bus. I think that, yeah, this is in Pennsylvania. She actually has to, she gives the press a little time. She answers a couple questions. So let's go ahead and watch this. By the way, watch this Secret Service female. Like, this is a weird job. So her job is to hold that door open? That's what it's weird. All right, pause it right there. All right, so she's like, so what do you got? What do you got? All right, let's do this. You know, I haven't talked to the press at all, but what do you got? All right. She really hasn't done a sit-down interview since, what are we going on? Almost a month now of being a candidate for office, right?
Well, I mean, her last interview was probably the one on CNN where she was defending what Biden did during the debate and said, no, Biden had a great debate. It was a rough start, great finish.
Right.
So, that's probably the last time that she's done a real interview was when she was lying and gaslighting the American people.
So now she's doing these media scrums and, what do you got? Tell me what you got. So let's go ahead and play it.
Yeah, it's almost
Okay,
done.
stop.
I mean,
First question. Are you done with your speech, Kamala? Wow, hard hitting. I mean, we got wars overseas, economic problems. Are you done with your speech? That's the first question they have for her. Okay, that's the press really going after it. So anyhow, this is her. Now watch how comfortable she is answering this question, okay? Because it's really a softball question. Go ahead.
some little tweaks, and I'm gonna, work on it probably starting tomorrow for next month. But it's coming along. I feel good about it. I mean, essentially, it's much of what you've probably heard me talk about before in terms of just what I believe to be the promise of America and the fact that we're all in this. And there's obviously a lot at stake, but there's also a lot to feel good about in terms of the future of our country. So there will be a lot that is about what I believe is a way forward, a new way forward, and bringing everyone along.
Okay, pause right there. Okay, very comfortable. Softball question. Now she actually gets a real question. Hey, this economic plan you released, how are you going to pay for it? Watch how uncomfortable she is. And this is the funny thing that I hear people say is, Kamala's going to, I can't believe Trump's afraid to debate her. Why won't Trump debate her? It's like Trump wants to debate her. This is what you get when she actually has to answer a tough question.
Some economic policies last week.
Yeah.
Can you explain how you're going to pay for those?
Look at those eyes. Already like shit.
Sure. Well, I mean, you just look at it in
Combs
terms
the hair.
of what we are talking about, for example, around children and the child tax credit and extending the EITC. It's at $6,000 for the first year of a child's life. The return on that investment in terms of what that will do and what it will pay for will be tremendous. We've seen it when we did it. The
Looks
first year of our
decide.
administration, we reduced child poverty by over
Overuse of
50%.
hands.
So that's a lot of the work. And then what we're doing in terms of the
Uncomfortable,
tax credits, we know that there's a great
touches on the
return
face.
investment. When we increase home ownership in America, what that means in terms of increasing the tax base, not to mention property tax base, what that does to fund schools, again, return on investment. I think it's a mistake for any person who talks about public policy to not critically evaluate how you measure the return on investment. When you are strengthening neighborhoods, strengthening communities, and in particular the economy of those communities, and investing in a broad-based economy, everybody benefits, and it pays for itself in that way.
All right, stop it. I mean, I swear to God, she's like, well, I think people that know the economy like to hear return on investment. She just uses the term, doesn't really understand what she's saying. She said a whole bunch of nothing. And this is the thing is she doesn't do press because that's what you get. You get a I don't know if she's.
And they ask, how will you pay for it? She basically says it's going to pay for itself. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I know, and politicians always say that stuff, but it's like she's so uncomfortable because she's really outmatched. She doesn't understand these complex issues, and this is why people didn't like her as vice president.
I don't know. I have a little bit of a different take on it.
Go ahead, give us your take.
I mean, I agree with you guys that her answer is foolish and whatever, and that I also agree that she did look like a deer in the headlights when it came out. But I mean, obviously you got your third of the country that's going to vote Republican no matter what, and the third that's going to vote Democrat no matter what, and her coming out with this little, it's going to pay for itself and it'll help the children and everything like that is probably a reasonable answer to the most like middle of the road moderate voters as one could have for that question. I mean, I think she gave a skillful answer. You know what I mean? It's like to all the third of the people that would never ever ever in a million years vote for Kamala Harris for president ever say, yeah, that was terrible. Look at her. She's a buffoon, right? And then the third of the people already love her and we're going to vote for her anyway. The only people that matter are those people in the middle. And for her to say, well, our children, won't be in poverty and then it's going to pay for itself because people own homes and pay property taxes. And, I mean, it's reasonable. It's like the low information voters that are in the middle that don't know who they're voting for yet. That's a decent answer to
my thinking, too,
them.
is if she has to face the press, she has to go into debate with Trump. And at this point, there's one debate. She has not agreed to the other debates, and that debate's not in front of people, by the way, not in front of a live audience, because it was scheduled originally with Joe Biden. She's going to look like a buffoon. People will see these nonverbal cues that she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about.
I don't disagree with that. I think you're probably right on that. In this particular thing, she was like immediately like, oh, I don't like this question.
She's so visibly unsure about what she's saying. And you're right. I think I'm maybe a little more critical. I understand this issue quite a bit, and I know she's saying a bunch of gobbledygook and not anything. But at some point, and we made fun of her in the past on this stuff, when she was talking to those NASA astronauts, like, good job, guys. Space is so great. It's such an amazing journey you guys are about to partake in. And she's, unburdened by, what is that term? That's,
and that's why I think that's why my take on that answer was a little different. It's like she looked scared at first, and then I thought she recovered and gave a good political answer that probably didn't hurt her. Versus like I've seen her look a lot worse than that in the past. Like you said, that all this kind of crap. Like so, I think I agree that she doesn't want to debate. Debate will hurt her, but I thought that particular answer she seemed to like save herself, I think.
Yeah, and by the way, that's all we got to go on because guess what? She has done like no press. She did that one media scrum, and she did for 3 minutes. Trump's already got a commercial ready to go on economics in Kamal's record. Let's go ahead and play us D3 here. This thing is Trump doesn't even have to speak other than saying he's approving this message. This is great. Watch this.
I don't know if we're going to be able to get this one to work.
Why can't we just hit that X?
I just did.
Really? It's not going to work?
I'll get there.
I bet it's on X, by the way. Boy, I had this thing queued up, ready to go. Is it not working?
Okay, got it.
All right, here we go.
A loaf of bread cost 50% more today than it did before the pandemic. Ground beef is up almost 50%.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
I've seen it. I like it.
Oh, but it's not her fault. What could she possibly do? She's only the vice president of the United States for the last 4 years.
Not only that, but the president's completely incompetent, so clearly the president's not running the country.
Right,
She has
I know.
more culpability.
Oh, my God.
She's the only one who's competent, the only one whose mental capacities in the White House are working.
Now, Don Jr. is the one that posted that on Instagram, so I have no idea if this is official or not because he likes to joke around, but that's not the worst commercial to do, right? In her own words, right? All right.
Like it.
And I think that's the big thing of what this election comes down to is inflation.
Yep.
Okay, so because it's just so damn expensive. We couldn't do this without our great sponsors today, Alpine Cabinetry in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Yes Solutions, run by the Patriot Carla Nelson for all your shipping needs. Warren Wessel of Keller Williams Realty. If you're buying or selling a home, give Warren a call. And if you're buying a home, go to the good guys at JohnGaltMortgageCompany.com. JohnGaltMortgage.com. I always get that mixed up. John Galt Mortgage Company, but it's JohnGaltMortgage.com. For all you guys that are either new subscribers, what you want to do is you want to go to Rumble, click on join. We got a post show, some juicy gossip, Plus, Dawson rips on Trump, and I got a different take. We'll get into it, Dawson. I'm actually pretty excited about this. I was hoping we'd have time for this on the normal show, but we're over an hour already, so we'll save it for all our new and old subscribers. What do you got, Tucci, before I sign out?
Now that I'm finally not in charge of reading comments, I see all the comments here. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Wait, what does it say, Bridget? I'll let Bridget do it.
You have to agree to a debate as a candidate?
It's a reference to the 10
Yes, we get it. Oh, thanks. Now we brought up Kresha again. Yes, I get it. All right. So, post-show, go to Rumble, click on join. Everyone else will see you there in locals in about 1 minute. Take care.